Evening, everyone, and I welcome all of you in another episode or series that we are continuing as part of Viksit Bharat. Today, we have a very important topic and a very distinguished panel to discuss about it. There is a target of $2 trillion in terms of exports that Modi government has set for the year 2030, and as we are on the verge of an iconic moment in the history of India when the Pran Pratishthan will happen in the Ram Mandir, Prime Minister Modi has shown how Vikas and Virasat can be taken together. So during the middle of a time when there was a pandemic, when the world was suffering, even during that situation, we emerged as the fifth largest economy of the world with almost a $750 billion export. We had a foreign exchange reserve of almost around $600 billion, plus minus, at a time when many of the other countries of the world, including the developed countries of the West, were undergoing recession. So, at a time you see where there are turmoils going on across the world, India has become and has remained an oasis of stability, which has been acknowledged by none other than IMF itself, which has defined India as a bright spot on an otherwise dark horizon. So there are a series of steps that has been taken over the last few years, and those steps are continuing in terms of ensuring that the bottlenecks that we have in the areas of manufacturing are taken care of so that we can eventually become a major hub for global manufacturing, not replicating China, but working on our own areas of proficiency, areas where we are good, one district, one product, or production linked incentive are perhaps a few examples of that. To discuss that thing in details, we have a very distinguished panel today. We would have among the speakers today, Dr. Bhanu Pratap Singh from Department of Economics in Benares Hindu University. He would join online shortly. We have with us Dr. Pritam Banerjee, who is a Senior Research Fellow at Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. And Pritam actually works in areas of trade, and he is one of the, you can call him an architect who spontaneously on a daily basis, his reports actually go to the government. So he has been working on many aspects. We also have Mr. Dinkar Singh. Dinkarji is very well known in the areas of global supply chain management. His contribution in the corporate world in areas of logistics and exports is well known. So I'll hand it over to Vitamda to take it forward from here, because in areas when it comes to issues of trade, I think among us, Pritamda and Dinkarji knows more than me. Over to you, Pritamji.
Thank you very much. Namaskar to everyone, and thank you, Pratikri, for that very kind introduction to for myself and my colleague Dinkar. And thanks, Dinkar, for being here. We'll eagerly wait Bhanu Pratap Singh ji is joining us. What we will try and do in the next about 1 hour that we have is to, amongst the three of us, perhaps even including four of us, including Pratikri, we'll have a conversation on some of the themes that Pratikrit has already flagged. The key fact is that if you look at the 10 years that the Modi government has been there, it has been some of the most difficult years globally. We had initially economic shocks in around 16-17 related to commodity prices for various reasons. Then we had the global pandemic, which we have just emerged out of. And despite being in such a tumultuous situation internationally with disruptions to global supply chains, we have seen India's exports and India's manufacturing sector on a strong and robust growth trajectory. Secondly, that growth trajectory is now showing tremendous impact in terms of generation of employment and increasing our competitiveness in some key sectors. What I would like to, just quickly put in front of you before I turn to my colleague Dinkar is to mention a few of the initiatives that the Modi government took. This is not an exhaustive list, but a brief introduction to some of the key policies. So one is that, as you know, that exports, they require incentives and support from the government. In many cases, these incentives and support that were being provided before were being challenged in the WTO because, as per WTO rules, governments cannot subsidize exports. They cannot support exports growth through subsidies. But the challenge that Indian exports have always faced is the high cost ecosystem, including the taxes that are being imposed on them domestically, which means that our exports were becoming more expensive or pricier compared to the competition. So the RODTEP scheme was, introduced. Without going into the technicality, it was a very well thought plan which clearly showed the world that the support that we were giving exports is not a subsidy, but basically it is simply neutralizing the impact of domestic taxes. And now that is now acceptable to WTO. So that's a big change that was brought about. Second, for agriculture, there was a scheme launched called the Transport Matching Scheme that was to help agricultural exports significantly. It is showing very good impact. The other one in that, of course, Pratikrit has mentioned, is the development of the export hub program and one district, one product program linked to that. The big thing that, it is just started off, so perhaps the full picture is not being felt. But think about it. One of the key challenges for India has been that there is a huge opportunity, and especially now with e-commerce that is emerging, of consumers looking at unique products, lifestyle foods, etc. There's a growing global middle class which is willing to pay a premium. And that global middle class is not limited to just our country. If you look at even other developing countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, even in our neighborhood countries like Bangladesh, apart from the very large middle class you already have in countries like US, Europe, etc., they are willing to pay that premium. We can see it in our own economy. We have so many formal retail outlets in different cities where our middle class is willing to pay a premium for a unique product, which is. And this ODOP and District Hub Development Program is targeting this particular demographic. And we are going to see a very important growth through this. The other very important thing is the free trade agreements, which has often been misunderstood. A lot of people have criticized free trade agreements. They have said that this pursuit of FTAs is perhaps not in India's interest. But let us think a few things through, and I will come back later, perhaps in the later part of the discussion, on some of the numbers. If you look at services, the whole ecosystem of services exports have changed, and the COVID pandemic actually led to a further change because of that. A lot of the services which we traditionally thought can only be done by physically being present where the service is being delivered can now be done remotely. Right? Think of Byju's, tutorials online. Think of DocOn, an app like DocOn, where you are consulting doctors online. There are hundreds of such examples. So this particular cross-border delivery of services, and coupled with the fact that there is a demographic challenge in the West. There are aging societies which require these services and don't have enough young skilled people to perform these services. And India definitely is the hotspot for becoming the service provider of choice. But when you do these services exports, lot of challenges arise on regulations, on market access. Now, one of the things these FTAs are doing is that we have a relatively open market globally, especially in countries of interest to us like Europe and UK, Canada, others. By negotiating these agreements, you ensure that these markets remain open at least for Indian exporters. So that is a major thing that is being done. Second, in terms of the movement of people, right? When our young people are moving to these countries to provide services, what these agreements are doing is ensuring that our country's qualifications are recognized and our access to these visas remain. Because you are currently seeing a very tumultuous world where people are moving anti-immigration. They're blocking the doors. But once we have these FTAs in place, there's a commitment by those countries that they cannot block the doors to Indian professionals, Indian workers. So the two most important thing is that your qualifications that you're acquiring in India will be recognized there, and your doors will remain open. So that's a huge economic opportunity being created for Indian citizens in these key markets. Last but not the least, we have to remember that in the global world we have something called global value chains, which essentially means that you have to import to export. You cannot 100% manufacture the hundreds of components that go into any product. I mean, if you all of you use smartphones, if you really think it through, your smartphone has more than 200 components. Even the sub-components that you look at, the camera, the screen, they have many other components that go into it. So you have to import from the best places to export. Now, what the FTAs do is that they create a certainty that Indian market for these imports will also be stable, allowing investors to come into our country and set up manufacturing. And this is where the magic of this whole of government holistic approach that Prime Minister Modi always takes. So along with the FTAs, he is doing the PLI scheme. So he is providing the industrial policy to attract investment, and through FTAs he is creating the ecosystem through which they will have the confidence to invest in our country. And we have already seen the huge impact of that, especially in the product that I mentioned in the area of smartphones. So these are just a few opening remarks, and I think I would turn to my friend and colleague Dinkar. And Dinkar, as has been told in the introduction, as a frontline view, he is in the area of exports and supply chains. So Dinkar, if you can tell us a few things from your perspective, how some of the policies have led to this kind of export growth that we have seen in very difficult circumstances in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Pritam. So, because I have been in this trade and we have been most of the time always interacting with the government, whether it was this government or previous government also. And the way how the government approach was, I will say, because I have seen a drastic change in the behavior and the approach of the government and the regulators also. So it was like that, okay, if you are a part of a trade body, and you approach the government or the regulator and you raise up your concern saying that for this specific industry, means from wherever we belong to, this is the basic problem and we need you all to sort it out. So that was the trigger point, means that the industry has to cry for a change. That was the trigger earlier. And even just after saying that it was not going to change, it was taking years and years and stakeholder consultation, then every ministry was being consulted, which was taking obviously time. And sometime I don't want to comment on the 5-year plan, but it looked like a 5-year plan which started after independence. But since 2014, the drastic change what I have seen, no, it's not that you go and cry to the government. No, if you see the overall policies, not one policy, but the number of policies which has been introduced by this government, Modi government basically, then you will see that has been a good thought behind that. It was not a random decision, it was not a knee-jerk reaction, or it was not that, okay, someone is telling something and it is getting implemented. It was not like that. Now, why I'm saying this? Because if you see the target which my friend was talking about, Pratik was talking about $2 billion of export till 2030. So out of that, obviously, one is for service and one is for goods. And if you just to recall that during 2013-14 financial year, the export was approximately somewhere $466 billion. So considering $466 billion and now the $2 trillion export, it's more than 5 times. Yeah, and you have to achieve that. And if you consider 2014 or 15 till 2013, 15 years, you have to multiply this export 5 times. Now, how this will get done? The first thing, if you see, means the reason why I'm always saying that it was a well thought decision, well thought policies has been implemented, and it has been implemented stepwise. So if you see, first in September 2014, when Modi ji was talking about Make in India. So what you are going to export? It's so simple. Either you are going to export service or the goods. So let's talk about goods first. So how you are going to export unless and until you make. So that was the first thing which he started talking about was make in India. Let's come make in India. Now, when you are talking about make in India, the first thing is that who will make? Either the domestic players or the international investors. So that's the reason. If you have to attract FDI, if you have to attract if you have to bring the technology, international technology, if you want to attract all those international manufacturers in India, the second thing was to make the regulation easy. The perception should be positive. How the perception will be positive? Now, you see the ease of doing business. So DPIIT, the Department of Promotion for Investment in Trade, Trade DPIIT, which is under Ministry of Commerce. So they started working with the World Bank. And it's not only about working. If you see the ranking, means from 142 rank which was there of India on World Bank ease of doing business, now we are at 63. So that is a drastic change. By how? By reducing the number of paperwork, by reducing the number of permissions, only required permissions or required paperwork which are essential, that is only required. So changing the perception of the country, changing the perception of the whole world that okay, look, India is welcoming, India is ready to take off. And that was one of the things which by changing the ease of doing business ranking and which is visible, which is the numbers speak. You can't say it's not a political speech where we quote anything. No, the numbers are speaking. So that was the first thing. Second is opening the FDI. Opening of FDI in defense, railway, space, so that the money should come here. And it should get, means people start manufacturing in India. And then once you are here, ease of doing business is there. FDI, you can invest money here, whether you are a domestic player or an international. What next? The next is you have the technology, you have money, you have your factory is now ready. Who else is required? We, the labor, the technician, and all. That's the reason there was a Skill India. So it was a well planned. It's not that okay, after Make in India, what next we are going to do? It was clear in the mind of the government that we have to skill our people, those who are ready to handle all these activities, whether it was soft skill or hard skill, whatever. But the Skill India program was for that, and the government came up with a specific ministry also for this. So that was the focus area of the government. Now, once you have this ready, your people are ready, then what next in the factory? Make in India for the world. This is many times I think you must have heard Modi saying this. Make in India for the world. And there comes the PLI. That is product linked incentive. And that has a criteria of X number of production. If you are making, you will get an incentive for that. So if you are a student of economics, you will understand this break even. What is break even called? So if you manufacture goods up to X number, then maybe that the variable cost will reduce. Because of the fixed cost, you are reaching that break even. So to reach that break even, the government is promoting so that your products are not, I will not say cheap, but yeah, competitive price in the market, so that it becomes a competitive in the international market and you are able to export it. So this PLI scheme was for 14 sectors and the amount which the government allocated was more than 26 billion. So if you see the trail that once you have completed the Make in India, ease of doing business, Skill India, then what next? Once the goods is ready, it has to come out of the factory gate. And as soon as it is coming out of the factory gate, what is levied? Tax. I think the GST, one nation, one tax. Since after 17 years of independence, we are thinking about one nation, one tax, GST. That has made the life of all the traders, manufacturers, logistic carriers, everyone so easy. Otherwise, within a country, we were having 29 international borders. If you travel from Delhi to any state, you can see the long queue of the trucks waiting, multiple documents. Every state was having different documents, road permit. Then you have to get it checked physically. Obviously, there was a delay. There was means obviously it leads to when there is a delay, when there is obstruction, it leads to corruption also, and that all again increase your cost. So GST. So as soon as your goods are out of the factory gate, the goods should move smoothly till the consumer or till the final customer. And the first thing was GST, making one nation, one tax. The e-way bill. I still remember, Pritamji, when we were discussing all these things with the government. And the government was ready to hear. They had a plan and they were ready to hear everyone that, okay, if you are facing any problem, come tell us. We are here to sort it out. So one one tax all over the country. Otherwise, if you talk about the number of tax, there was some in some state it was octroi. Yeah, some municipal corporation was leaving octroi. Some state was having X number of tax, some was having on the same product Y tax, some was having more, some was having less. If there was a transit, means if a goods has to move from Maharashtra to West Bengal, number of states are coming in between. You should be having a transit permit from each state. At every naka, every toll, it has to be checked. So all this was eliminated by just GST, making the life easy of the traders, the manufacturers, the logistic carriers, whosoever was involved in the supply chain, making it easy. Now, I can go on. I can go on all this, Pritanji, because it's really good that you have organized this seminar. Because a lot of things means we have never thought of that what all has been done in last 9-10 years, but it has been done with a proper thought. So as soon as the GST is paid or the way bill is ready, the goods will be either on truck or in air or rail. You see, the thought process means if you talk about the road network first, because the goods are on road. If you talk about the road network, obviously under this government and everyone knows our road transportation minister Nitin Gadkari. Yeah, obviously we should hail him because the reason is in last just 9 years, 50,000 kilometers of road network was added in this country. The question is, how much kilometer of road network was there earlier? Somewhere 95,000.
And this is for 70 years.
70 years. So in 70 years, you have made 95,000 kilometer of road, and in 9 years, you have added 50,000. How much? 1.5 means just you have more than half.
Close to doubling.
Close to doubling, yes. And still it's going on. The focus has not yet been, it's not off that, okay, now that is not our focus. Still the focus is there. So when you talk about road network, we all can see, at least I can see, I am from Varanasi, and most of the time when there is an urgency, I drive my car till Varanasi, 800 kilometers. I still remember, now I can drive my car in 10 hours from Delhi to Varanasi. I can dare to do that because of the good road network. And just think how easy you have made the life of a driver, a truck driver, who is on the road, who is there just to earn few thousand of rupees as a salary. we are making their life also easy. It's not only about moving the goods faster, but making each and everyone in the supply chain their life easy, increasing their efficiency to work, and that efficiency will obviously reduce the cost, will enhance the customer experience. Talk about the airports. Urgent goods are getting moved through belly of the cargo, means flight. There was somewhere 74 airports in India till 2014. Can you imagine how many airports were added in last 9 years? Approx the same number, 74. So what we have done in 9 years, obviously, means if you want to compare with the last 65 to 70 years, actually it's not comparable. But that activity has been done. That thought process has been put in this whole initiative. That how we can reach that $2 trillion export. It's not that just a wish. A proper thought has been implemented in this, and all this thought we can see through these schemes. If you talk about railway, the dedicated freight corridor, even though it was started somewhere in 2012, somewhere
Even earlier,
yeah,
conceptualization was even earlier.
Concept was there.
And I think that is the key point.
Yeah.
If I can, take over from Dinkar for a little bit. That GST was actually first discussion started during Vajpayee's time. Implementation happened quickly under Prime Minister Modi. The Golden Quadrilateral program, which was the vision for the road network that Dinkar is mentioning, started during Vajpayee's time. Then nothing happened. We remained, we went from about 79,000 kilometers of road to close to 90,000 kilometers in 10 years. This quantum jump that was the vision of Vajpayee, starting with the Golden Quadrilateral, that happened under Prime Minister Modi. It is the ability to implement. See, to make the country competitive, we had a situation for a very long time, and I don't want to go back into history, but it's important to take a few seconds. Under misplaced socialistic ideas, we had what we call the license quota Raj. Now, just to give an example of the license quota Raj, it meant that the government, somebody sitting in Delhi in the office, will decide how much an entrepreneur who has put in his capital, taking all the risk and all the hard work, some bureaucrat will decide how many units he will produce and at what price he will sell. This completely destroyed the epicenter of entrepreneurship, and I want to highlight that word. If you see any country in the world that has done globally is successful as an exporter, globally successful as an economy, it is because they have had stellar entrepreneurs. Even today you see that. There's one American company which has huge exports, Tesla. Think about these brand names. Tesla, Apple, Sony, Toyota. Each of these companies have developed products and technologies which their revenues are more than the exports of many countries combined. This entrepreneurship spirit was not allowed to flourish. Now, once that was allowed to flourish, what was required was all of the things that Dinkar was mentioning to reduce the costs of operations of business in India. So, as you know, and Dinkar, I think, did a fantastic job linking all of them. So, the whole infrastructure, now the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti master plan. So, the infrastructure is not just the driver's convenience. Think about a small farmer. If he wants to move half a truckload of produce from his farm to a processing factory, having a poor road which takes a long time adds enormous costs, which reduces the margins for the poor farmer. So, road, there were politicians, I remember, so all of you are younger than me, who used to think that road is a luxury of the rich. Think of the sheer misconception. That road is not the luxury of the rich, it is the essential need of the poor and of the Indian economy. Think about the dedicated freight corridor. What was happening? Passenger trains were competing with goods trains. Who do you prioritize? There was a mixture. Passengers were getting delayed. Now think of the delay. I just want to think about the economic cost of the delay to an average Indian worker. We have industrial clusters. Workers come from all over the country to work. Imagine you're a worker from Assam or Bihar working in south of India. You have only 9 days of leave. If because of train delay 4 5 days is going on train, how many days do you get to spend with your family? Think about the social impact of that. So these are the kind of the vision that Prime Minister Modi developed. This is a holistic economic vision that looks at all factors of production. So connectivity, logistics, the cost of different factors, including workers, labor, and the ease of living for them. So that is where, and I think is Doctor.
I think he'll join a little bit. So
Okay.
I'll just add a few points to
Sure,
what has
please.
been wonderfully explained by two veterans in the entire trade industry. Yes. Number one, we have to, when we talk about Make in India, there was an era before 2014. First of all, we must understand, in 2013, we were among the 5 fragile economies of the world. We were among the 5 fragile economies of the world as per Morgan Stanley. And in less than 10 years, we have become among the 5 major economies of the world. So look at the transition, the transformation that has happened in just less than 10 years. Couple of points I wanted to add just to complement what has been beautifully explained. Before 2014, in areas like defense, you are not allowing foreign direct investment. You are not even allowing Indian companies to manufacture.
Indian private sector.
Private sector. You are only allowing imports, and then there were these lobbies, and we rest of the things we know what kind of corruption used to happen.
And that was with the reason for the
Yes. And today we are exporting from shells to artilleries to loitering munitions to missiles, surface-to-air missiles, to even cruise missiles. There are major Indian private sector companies which have come up, which are making the same products even at a lower cost than what even some of the PSUs can make. Secondly, at sector like space, ISRO was doing a great work, but you actually eventually need to expand and allow the private sector. Otherwise, you will not have Indian SpaceX or an Indian organization like a SpaceX coming up here. Also, we must understand, when Prime Minister Modi is talking about a $2 trillion export by 2030, it means there are projections that the economy will be nothing less than $7 to $8 trillion. Why? Because economies which were only dependent on export always remain very fragile and vulnerable. That if there are problems in the international market, your economy suffers. So what has he done? He has, in the last 9-10 years, brought out 24 crore people out of multidimensional poverty. Whether it is through Swachh Bharat, whether it is through Awas Yojana, whether it is by giving Mudra loan, he has created 8 crore entrepreneurs.
The Jam Trinity.
Jam Trinity, absolutely. Direct benefit transfer. So these 24 crore people who have come out of multidimensional poverty, not just coming out of below poverty line. Multidimensional poverty means he had today a housing, he has today access to capital, he has today access to technology, and he would now productively contribute to the economy. And productively he would also consume goods and services produced by the economy.
Pratik, can I just add a comparative number here? Think about this number of 250 million people, approximately, who have been brought out of poverty in just under 10 years. That is the population of entire sub-Saharan Africa. Think about the sheer scale of this achievement. We have been hearing, at least I have, and I'm sure you have, since we were children, about the enormous poverty in Africa which has remained there. We've also heard about the sheer poverty in our own country. To take out entire sub-Saharan Africa population, same number, out of poverty in 9 years, if you do not appreciate the scale of this achievement, I am astounded by you not being surprised.
In the middle of a pandemic.
As an economist, we studied theoretical economics. If somebody told me this was possible, I would have said you are joking with me. It cannot be done. You cannot bring 250 million people out of poverty in 9 years. I would have said that. my theoretical, what we call in Bengali, Puthigata understanding of economics. This man, I'm sure when he was discussing this with learned economists, was equally told similar negative feedback. He didn't believe them. He went ahead and simply did this. This is the scale of achievement. He redefines goals. As Dinkar was mentioning, and I know because I was part of these conversations in different government committees, when in 2015 Prime Minister Modi first set the target, and he said that in 10 years we are 160 in the ease of doing business ranking, will be top 50 in 10 years. So-called many experts from places like the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, they were quietly smiling, making jokes. Yes, we are not in the top 50, we are very close. He did it. It could be done. This is a person who redefines standards, redefines goals, and that's the reason why you are seeing the sheer respect the world has for India today. Because the scale of achievement this country is doing at the speed we are doing it is unprecedented. It's simply unprecedented. The kind of metro rails we have added, the roads we have added, the airports, the ports we are building, very few countries have done it. Some people will refer to China as a baseline. But please be mindful that is still a one-party state. Land acquisition can happen with the stroke of a pen. There are no courts to take any litigation. Government controls all the finances. And there is no state government, central government. There is only one government. To do this in a robust democracy with the rule of law, taking all the stakeholders along with you, is a massive achievement. But I think, particularly we have another colleague who have joined us. So, Bhanu Pratap ji, very warm welcome. You would have been hearing the strand of discussion जो हम लोग कर रहे हैं. So, over to you. We would love to hear your views on the matter.
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, I get pardon from Dr. Mr. Singh and Dr. Banerjee for joining late because I was busy with some meeting, like my vice chancellor. So it was not easy to, came in between. So, अभी तक ये जो डिस्कशन चल रहा है, इस डिस्कशन जो आप लोगों ने जो बात रखी है यहाँ पे, जो मोटा मोटा तौर पे मैं समझ पाया हूँ कि आपने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट और जो $2 ट्रिलियन का जो टारगेट है उसके बारे में डिस्कस किया। इस पे जो मेरे व्यूज हैं उसको मैं ब्रीफली रखना चाहूँगा और हो सकता है कि बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो है रिपीट भी हो रही हों क्योंकि मैंने आप लोगों को शुरू में सुना नहीं है। तो सबसे पहले ये सोचने की ज़रूरत है कि $2 ट्रिलियन का टारगेट जो है 2023 के लिए क्यों रखा है। सबसे पहले तो इसके दो
2030
के लिए क्यों रखा गया है, उसका दो मेजर ऑब्जेक्टिव है। पहला कि हमारे देश में जो लोग हैं, एक सबसे पहले क्या उनको पॉवर्टी के ट्रैप से बाहर लाना और उनकी ओवरऑल क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ को इम्प्रूव करना। दूसरी चीज क्या है कि हमने अपने देश में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट में, इसको बिल्ड करने में काफी पैसा लगाया है और बहुत जगह पे हमने एक्सटर्नल डेट का भी सहारा लिया है उस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को फंड करने के लिए। तो जब भी उस डेट को सर्विस करने की बारी आएगी तो हमें फिर से डॉलर चाहिए उस डेट को सर्विस करने के लिए। तो एक्सपोर्ट का मतलब ज्यादा होना बहुत ही जरूरी है। अब सवाल ये उठता है कि किस तरीके से इस टारगेट को अचीव किया जाए। तो मेरा ये मानना है क्या कि इस प्रश्न के उत्तर में जाने से पहले सबसे पहले हमें ये देखना होगा कि अभी हम किस स्थिति में हैं, क्या कंडीशन है हमारी इकोनॉमी। तो अगर हम इस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे अगर हम देखें तो हम पाते हैं क्या कि इंडिया की जो जीडीपी की ग्रोथ है जो कि 2023-24 के लिए है, वो एक्सपेक्टेड है $3.62 से $3.75 ट्रिलियन के करीब है, जो कि इस वित्तीय वर्ष में ये टारगेट जो है अचीव कर लिया जाएगा। और जो हमारे एक्सपोर्ट टारगेट है वो भी $900 बिलियन यूएसडी के करीब जो है पहुंच जाएगा, जो कि करीब 22 से 24% है हमारे टोटल जीडीपी का। अगर हम ग्रोथ रेट की प्रोजेक्शन देखें तो हमारा ग्रोथ रेट जो है वो 6.5 से 7% के बीच में रहने वाला है और जो इन्फ्लेशन है वो 4 से लेके 4.5 के अराउंड ये रहने वाला है। तो अगर हम नॉमिनल जीडीपी के ग्रोथ को अगर देखें तो नॉमिनल जीडीपी का ग्रोथ 10.5 से 11% के करीब होने वाला है, ठीक है। लेकिन चूंकि हम एक्सपोर्ट की बात कर रहे हैं और एक्सपोर्ट भी हम डॉलर्स के टर्म्स में बात कर रहे हैं, तो अपनी करेंसी के डेप्रिसिएशन को भी हमें इग्नोर नहीं करना चाहिए। तो अगर अपने करेंसी के डेप्रिसिएशन को भी देखते हैं तो पिछले एक दशक में जब से हमारी क्या बोलते हैं ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जब से उन्होंने ऑफिस को रिज्यूम किया है, तब से अगर हम देखें तो हम पाते हैं क्या कि ऑन एन एवरेज जो है करीब 2.25% के करीब जो है हमारे क्या बोलते हैं एक्सचेंज रेट में यूएस डॉलर के अगेंस्ट में जो है डेप्रिसिएशन है। अगर इस फिगर के साथ भी अगर हम जाएं तो उसके बाद भी नॉमिनल जीडीपी का जो ग्रोथ है यूएस डॉलर के टर्म्स में वो भी करीब करीब 8% के करीब रहने वाला है। और इस 8% के ग्रोथ रेट के साथ जो है अगर हम 2030 को अगर हम देखें तो 2030 में जैसा कि आपने कहा, डॉक्टर बनर्जी ने कहा कि हम लोग इजीली जो है $7 ट्रिलियन के मार्क को जो है छू लेंगे। तो अगर $7 ट्रिलियन के मार्क को अगर हम के साथ अगर हम एक्सपोर्ट को देखते हैं तो अभी के हिसाब से हम 22 से 24% जो है एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। और अगर $7 ट्रिलियन का 22 से अगर 24% हम निकालें तो करीब वो 1.5 से लेके 1.54 ट्रिलियन डॉलर के करीब वो होगा। तो यहाँ पे जो चैलेंज है वो क्या है कि जो $500 बिलियन है, इस $500 बिलियन को कहाँ से लेके आया जाए। तो इसके लिए जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है वो ये है क्या कि किस तरीके से जो है हम अपनी प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी को इम्प्रूव करें। इसके अलावा क्या कि न्यू मार्केट्स को कैसे हम एक्सप्लोर करें। और तीसरी चीज क्या है, ऐसे कमोडिटीज जिन कमोडिटीज में हम लोग कन्वेंशनली एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहे थे, उन कमोडिटीज के ऊपर फोकस करें। अगर आप गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज को अगर देखो पिछले पास्ट डिकेड से, तो आप पाओगे क्या कि जो गवर्नमेंट है बहुत सारे फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स भी कर रहे हैं अपने नॉन कन्वेंशनल जो है पार्टनर्स के साथ। जैसे हमारी सरकार जो है वो ईस्ट एशिया को देख रही है, ब्राजील को देख रही है, ऐसे इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स को भी देख रही है जिसके साथ ट्रेडिशनली हम लोग ट्रेड करते नहीं आ रहे हैं। इसके अलावा आप देख रहे हैं, आपको पता ही होगा कि जो नन ऑयल और जो नन ज्वेलरी कैटेगरी की जो मर्केंटाइज ट्रेड है, खासकर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, इंजीनियरिंग, फार्मास्यूटिकल्स, डिफेंस, सोलर पैनल, इसमें भी सरकार ने काफी फोकस किया है इसके ट्रेड को प्रमोट करने के लिए। लेकिन जो सबसे बड़ा जो क्रिटिसिज्म है जो कि बेसिकली आता है, तो जो भी हमारी पॉलिसी है वो क्या है क्या कि लोग कहते हैं क्या कि एक्सपोर्ट करने के लिए हमें कॉम्पिटिटिव होना चाहिए, राइट। लेकिन कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस जो है दो तरीके से आती है। कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस केवल लेबर सेविंग टेक्नोलॉजी से नहीं आती है कि हम इनोवेशन कर रहे हैं, लेबर सेविंग कर रहे हैं, ज्यादा से ज्यादा कैपिटल लेके आ रहे हैं, लेकिन जो नेचुरल बैरियर्स कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस के जो है और एक्सपोर्ट के, जैसे कि आपने इन्वेस्टमेंट क्लाइमेट के बारे में बताया, लेबर रेगुलेशंस के बारे में बताया, लॉजिस्टिक्स के बारे में बताया, उसके ऊपर सरकार का पूरा फोकस है। और प्रोडक्शन लिंक इंसेंटिव्स के थ्रू सरकार ने इसके ऊपर फोकस इसलिए भी दिया है क्योंकि सरकार को ये बात पता है कि प्रोडक्शन या मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ही एक ऐसा विकल्प है जिससे डिफरेंट स्किल सेट के लोगों को एब्जॉर्ब किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि सर्विसेज में हर स्किल सेट के लोगों को एब्जॉर्ब नहीं किया जा सकता। अगर आप हाई एंड सर्विसेज की बात करोगे, फिनेंशियल कंसल्टेंसी की बात करोगे, तो क्या बोलते हैं कि जो कुछ लोग होंगे, जो हैंडफुल लोग होंगे, बम्बई, हैदराबाद या बैंगलोर में बैठे हुए लोग हैं, वही केवल उसका हिस्सा बन सकते। लेकिन अगर आपको इस ग्रोथ स्टोरी में अगर सबको साथ लेके चलना है तो आपको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे फोकस करना ही पड़ेगा। और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे फोकस करके ही आप सबका कल्याण कर सकते हो और इस देश का भी कल्याण कर सकते हो। तो दिस इज फ्रॉम माय साइड।
थैंक यू सो मच प्रोफेसर सिंह। आपके जो जो आपने जो विषय के ऊपर हमारे ध्यान लाया है उसके ऊपर मेरे कुछ फर्दर क्वेश्चंस एंड आई हैंड ओवर टू दिनकर। वन वेरी गुड पॉइंट आपने जो बताया कि डाइवर्सिफिकेशन होना चाहिए सेक्टर्स में, तो उसमें आखिर ये दिखाती है कि जो विश्व का डिमांड है, इंपोर्ट डिमांड है, वो दो सबसे बड़ी सेक्टर्स में फास्टेस्ट ग्रो कर रही है, विच इज इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंजीनियरिंग, जहां पे हमारा दबदबा ट्रेडिशनली था नहीं। बट व्हाट वी हैव सीन इन द लास्ट 7 years, when the impact of Make in India and other policies have started to come, ये हमारा उसमें 20% प्लस का ग्रोथ रहा है ईयर ऑन ईयर, एंड वी आर रैपिडली गेनिंग मार्केट शेयर. तो वो स्किल, सो देयर वी आर मूविंग अहेड, क्योंकि दुनिया का सबसे ज्यादा 70-60% डिमांड इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यू ऑफ imports is going to come from these sectors. सेकंड, आपसे थोड़ा सा मेरा डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन है. सर्विसेज में हमारा डबल हुआ है एक्सपोर्ट्स इन जस्ट अबाउट 9 years, एंड ये हुआ है अंडर सर्कमस्टांसेस वे सर्विसेज की पूरी छवि बदल रही है. बहुत सारे सर्विसेज जो पहले रिमोटली नहीं संभव था आज हो रहा है. दूसरा, वी हैव गॉट ऑटोमेशन एंड एआई. जो लोग कह रहे थे कि ऑटोमेशन और एआई के आते हुए जो हमारे बीपीओ बैक ऑफिस टाइप के जो लेबर इंटेंसिव सर्विसेज थे वो नेगेटिवली इंपैक्ट होंगे. इसका मेन कारण यह है कि एक्चुअली हमारे छोटे शहरों से, जिसे हम कैटेगरी बी या कैटेगरी सी टाउन्स कहते हैं, वहां से बहुत सारे यंगस्टर्स आ रहे हैं विद न्यू स्किल्स, एंड दे आर आइदर सेल्फ लर्निंग, दे आर मोटिवेटेड, एंड वो एआई ऑटोमेशन ये सारे चीजों में जा रही है, क्योंकि यहाँ पे ये सारे स्किल्स के लिए लैंग्वेज कोई बाधा नहीं है. अगर आपके पास इच्छा हो, डिटर्मिनेशन हो, आपका ड्राइव हो, तो आप यह कर सकते हो. और अगर हम हमारा डेमोग्राफिक्स देखें, इफ आई सी द टोटल नंबर ऑफ people who graduate from a college in India or a technical program in India, it is the highest in the world today. We are actually far ahead of China, and this situation will remain for next 10 to 15 years, which means हमारे देश के पास ये एक विंडो है, ये जो हर साल 35-40 मिलियन लोग ग्रेजुएट कर रहे हैं, आप मान के चलिए इसमें से अगर 10% भी एक्सेल करते हैं, you are adding 4 million highly skilled workers to the global workforce. No other country comes close. The second country is China, which is about 1.5 million, less than half of your size. तो ये जो competitive advantage है, ये I think will only play to our advantage. So services को उतना भी कम मत समझिए, but your point is well made. Manufacturing में भी diversification जो हो रहा है. एक छोटा सा और point है before I go to Dinkar. इस जो आप exchange rate की बात कर रहे थे, इससे एक important बात मुझे I think I have to put it over here. एक कॉन्सेप्ट है परचेसिंग पावर पैरिटी, जो एक्चुअली जो गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज जो एक इकोनॉमी में यूज अप होता है या सेल होता है या प्रोड्यूस होता है, उसका आंकड़ा है. अगर मैं परचेसिंग पावर पैरिटी देखूं तो इंडिया इज ऑलरेडी द हाफ द साइज ऑफ द यूएस एंड द चाइनीज मार्केट. हमारा इकोनॉमी बाय परचेसिंग पावर पैरिटी टर्म्स इज अबाउट $8 trillion प्लस, व्हाइल द यूएस इज
13 trillion हो गया. Almost $13 trillion हो गया.
13 trillion is, I think,
purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity. Nominal GDP is 3.75, and purchasing power is pretty high.
Pretty high. So it's about 50% of the.
50%.
So, and if we continue to grow in this trajectory, then in purchasing power parity terms, we'll be catching up with the Chinese and the American economy much sooner than in nominal GDP terms. And because that is a domestic economy factor, but Inkarji, you have a ringside view. We have seen some of this diversification happen. Some new firms come in.
Yeah.
तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा अगर आप जानते हैं.
I think, what we started with was obviously the schemes which this government has come up with, and how strategically they have come up with various schemes which is supporting export and the industry. But what point, Mr. Singh, you have raised, Professor Singh, that 2-3 points which you have raised, and somewhere I agree with you. Only the difference of opinion will be the way we look. Let me talk about you have raised a very valid point of exchange rate, because exchange rate matters. When you are earning in dollars, obviously exchange rate will matter, and that is deciding the pricing also. But somewhere saying, I will say that appreciation of dollar rather than saying depreciation of Indian rupee. Why I am saying this? Because then you'll have to compare all the currencies in the world, that whether dollar has appreciated or Indian rupee has depreciated. If other currencies, which most of the trade is happening, if they remain constant and Indian rupee is depreciating, then we'll call Indian rupee is depreciating. Whereas what I feel that dollar has appreciated because of various reasons, geopolitical reason and all. What means I have one number because of this, because this is one of the reason for controlling the export. The reason why export in dollars has not seen very much difference in comparison to last year. And in April 2022, the exchange rate of US dollar INR was 76.16. And in April 2023, it is 82.18. So obviously, we can see approx 6 rupees difference where dollar has appreciated. So whether I say it is appreciation or whether he say it is depreciation, it will impact the earnings. Okay, but how this matters, the word matters. This word, the difference of word will always matter for future. That there is a scope, positive scope, or there is a threat. So that's the reason I'm saying dollar has appreciated. It means there is a positive scope for us. Point number one. Point number two, when we are talking about exports and basically talking again about goods, because for service, Dr. Pritam Banerjee has already said that we have in 9 years we have doubled it. Yeah, so let's talk about goods. So if you talk about goods, there are traditional exports also in India. Mostly the Indian goods were traditional exports. But the thing is that government has not lost its focus on that. The ODOP, which you started, the scheme which you are saying, that is obviously shows that the focus of government is there, where we don't want to export the goods, but we want to give a flavor that, okay, this carpet is of Bhadoi, the world should know. Yeah, this brass is from Muradabad, the world should know.
Get the premium it deserves.
Yeah, get a premium deserve and get that branding done. So ODOP is that we want to sell the world, not only make in India, but also somewhere the world should know our small cities also in which they are expert. But that will obviously give a lot of jobs to MSMEs and skilled labor whom you can develop as an entrepreneur. But where we want to achieve this $2 trillion, how we are going to achieve? There will be a new technology on which we will have to work. One of the example which I want to give is just you see the smartphone export. The smartphone export in 6 months of 2022, the first 6 months, January to June, the smartphone export was $2.5 billion. And last year, from January to June 2023, the smartphone export was $7.5 billion. Thrice. We have added 5 billion just by exporting one phone which is getting manufactured in India. So it will be a game changer. And the way this government and the way means the vision of Modi, I have seen in last 9 years. I can bet there are many things in his pocket. Let's talk about semiconductor.
Absolutely.
I was there last week in Vibrant Gujarat summit. Micron is already, they have started ATMP, that is OSAT. Yeah, testing of that. Simtech, they announced. Tata, they announced. Tata is going to come up with fab. The whole dynamics will change. Last year, if you can recall, suddenly there was a notification issued by DGFT that there will be a restriction of import on laptops. And the whole industry was surprised how come they can come up with this type of notification within a day without consulting the industry, because we all know how much laptop is now in each and every household now, almost, I will say, not all but almost. After 4 days it was taken back or kept in abeyance. Now, recalling the notification and keeping in abeyance, these are two different things. Keeping in abeyance means a message to the industry, start manufacturing.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was in Global Investor Summit in Tamil Nadu. One of the company, VVDN, they have started making all these things in.
And others will follow because the
Others
message has
will
been
follow.
given.
So it somewhere $84 billion, the figure may be $1 or $2 billion up, means vary. What I am just quoting. The import of electronics from China. We are going to replace that. How? one of the biggest thing is smartphones and laptops. So yeah, $2 trillion will not be achieved in a day. I agree. 2030, there are 6 years now, full 6 years. There will be a drastic change in product. There will be diversification in product. Now coming to one of the last point, because I will not talk about more on FTA because Dr. Pritam Banerjee, he almost drafted the FTA. If you all don't know, yeah, because his advice, he's part of that. So, but one of the FTA, we have done FTA with UAE, Australia, UK. Still work is going on. But let me give you only one example of UAE. The reason because I believe in numbers. The number speaks. If you talk about UAE, on 18th Feb 2022, we signed the FTA with UAE. And I have just searched few data. The export till May 20, from March Feb 2022, the May 2022 means $26 billion. And one full 12 months I am taking. Until March 2023, it was $28.5 billion to UAE. It means after FTA, there has been an increase of $2.3 billion of exports. So obviously, this is, you can say that this is not a big number, 10% of increase just because of FTA. But it is showing a positive sign. People are getting ready. Entrepreneurs are getting ready. They have all the support. They have all the infrastructure support. There is a visionary government. They have infrastructure support. They have all the type of supports. So I think I will not say that I think. I firmly believe.
We know.
We know that we are going to achieve. And there will be many other diversification products which will help us in achieving this $2 trillion. And yes, obviously there are a few numbers which well quoted by Professor Singh about the total economy of India, the $7 trillion which we will achieve in 2030, then 25% of that. Yes, numbers, arithmetic shows that. But this government is not about arithmetics. It's nowhere now addition. It's all about multiplication. And we have seen it, and at least I can say we are nowhere in the world of addition. We are in the era of multiplication. Thank you.
Standards have been changed, but we are almost at the close of our time. I'm very happy to see an old friend and my junior from university, Anandajit Goswami, was a professor of economics. I believe you have a question, so
No questions, but
some comments.
lot of thoughts and comments.
Please.
So, so Pritam and I, our journey goes back to school and then university. And so two observations which were coming, because I see this government is very interesting. The old school trade classes, when we used to do Fisher effects, so we spoke of the depreciation of the exchange rate. So in the classroom we were taught, okay, there's a depreciation, exports go up. So your LM curve and the IS curve will constantly have a dynamic shifting. And I wanted to know your observation from a practitioner point of view. I know strategically the government is giving a very interesting signal. So when the export sector is booming up, the demand is shifting, which also in a way create a Keynesian demand shift. But also parallelly there's a monetarism which the government gives in terms of loans, interest rate, the production linked incentives, where you also have a signaling where through the rate of interest you are trying to play with the final output in the economy. So how you see this strategic thing? And you gave an answer to that when you said about the abundance, and that was a very interesting political signal. So where I think this government is an artist. It has taken the classroom Fisher effect to a very different. Apart from the numbers generally government do, but to create a harmonic music, policy is a very interesting ball game. It is full of agency problems. To do and achieve so much, it takes some. The point that Pritam you made about the skill, there I was thinking, this is my thought, I have no answer yet. So skill in human capital accumulation classes we used to know has 4 dimensions: recreational, technical, vocational, and practitioner. I have a feeling even with AI and the technical, the negativity which was spread with AI, people will have labor shocks, there will be labor readjustments. I think the recreational skill has flourished in this country. The point you mentioned about the tier 2, tier 3, these are not language barrier skills, these are recreational skills. And there I think India has an edge. So that is where India is defining new theories. Maybe Kenetaro should have written a new learning by doing model only studying this. So the entire skill and human capital accumulation and its impact on trade and the theoretical classes of 50s, 60s, this government has redefined. And it can be a good paper if someone writes.
Well, there is a saying called every living practitioner is a prisoner of a dead theorist.
Well said,
So I think a lot of things, you're right, but I'll just add one thing with your permission.
Of course, Anish.
First of all, till the time, if you have to create jobs, if you have to create livelihood, you have to have manufacturing here. Now, till the time you have to import everything in dollar, till the time there is this domination of dollar in the international market, you require to earn the dollar first, and that's why you would have an export orientation.
What Professor Singh was saying.
As I mentioned, does it mean that only the government is focusing on export? No, it is also simultaneously ensuring that there is internal demand as well. The other thing is that we also witness eventually, maybe not today, in the next 1 decade or so, you might see a phase of de-dollarization of the global economy going on. When you have de-dollarization, there will be 2 aspects to it. Your focus on exports may not be that much that time, because you don't need to earn anything, because you will start, and that is something again the government of India has started doing through UPI, the rupee trade. It will take time. It's not going to happen in 1 day. That is a very, very significant thing that the government is doing. The other thing is that invariably you may not focus so much on those global trade deals, because as I have seen, and Pritam has been an architect, bilateral deals with India are far more effective than global multilateral deals. So what I'm trying to say is that government has not been in a hurry to sign trade deals in the multilateral forum for the sake of export. The exports are a very calibrated way happening in terms of what Bhanuji was mentioning. How do we achieve $2 trillion? The quality of export is also going to go up. It is not just about quantity anymore. So one district, one product, you are branding your products, you are giving an aesthetic value to it, which means there will be a premium. At the same time, when from the area of, say, lithium as a raw material, you will start exporting batteries, the quality of export will go up, the quantum of income will also go up. So yes, you're right. In certain way, there has been defiance, because I think we were also at certain point too much engrossed with the theories on the pretext that there is no alternate to it. I think there's some kind of a improvisation in certain cases happened. And what you mentioned about the issues of creativity, I think human intervention beyond a point would always be required, even when AI would come in. Otherwise, it's not going to end anything. There was this fear at one point of time that computers will take away all jobs. Computer has been an enabler. But what government has done, and I just want half a minute more. I think once the de-dollarization starts, maybe in the next, say, 10 to 15 years, this whole focus of pushing of dollar money coming for as venture cap, or suddenly the valuation of organizations go up without any revenue model, that is going to stop, and you would that time see the real entrepreneurship coming out from India, from tier 2, tier 3 cities, based on the right kind of revenue model, based on the right kind of product, and not something which is purely valuation based, because some newspaper suddenly says somebody has bought some 10% stake for $100 million, so your valuation of the company becomes $1 billion. If that valuation driven model will be shifting towards a revenue driven and real entrepreneur based model, and that will happen because of de-dollarization. The rupee model, taking people out of multidimensional poverty, giving them loan capital to ensure that they become future entrepreneurs and job creators. I think there's an entire gamut of things which, as Rinkarji also mentioned, I think Modi ji has a lot of things up in his sleeve, and that's why I think even the West is a little scared. That because let me tell you, I don't know whether I should say this here, because this is not the right forum for that. You see, suddenly in the West, there are a lot of things they tend to talk about India in negative way. The unfortunate things they keep up pushing up. Unfortunate in the way that normal things they will try to extrapolate. Oh, see, India is so this, India is so bad. Why? There is this whisper in this Western arena that China is today's problem, India is tomorrow's. What is a problem for them that they cannot control? So what India is doing today under Prime Minister Modi's leadership is we are economically and thought-wise gradually becoming independent, not just political independence. So I think this is only one gamut of what the whole list of things that could happen. As I mentioned, $2 trillion invariably would mean an $8 trillion economy by 2030. The government at any point of time would not want your dependence on export to be more than 25% of the GDP. So I think a lot of things are happening. We have to see the larger picture. Sorry, please.
Are you out of time?
No, please carry on.
No, but is there one more comment from you?
No, but maybe after it.
No, I'll just make the closing
I
remarks.
actually no. I have been working with few philosophers lately, and I have a feeling that this government, and linking to what Uthikrit is saying, this government might actually also, once de-dollarization happen, will move towards a decentralization of currency. In the sense, Bitcoin coming in, Indian digital dollar data. It's a radical. I don't know. You must have heard about this new concept which the government also is floating around. So they are going to create a new form of monetarism, even which the West is fearing. Because this digital data, and Prime Minister understands much more than any of us, he knows what technology. So we have three assets now. The data, so everyone consumes 1 GB data per day. So already within very close monetary circles, this is going on that India might create an IDD of its own. So essentially through every data purchase, you tokenize the economy and you make much more, the transaction cost just goes out. And I have a feeling in the next 5-6 years, and the West is scared already about that. That's my thought, and it's linking to what and I supplement what he said. And the second is, sorry, I'm taking this so close to my heart today, what is being discussed. The other thing where I think someone needs to write about India, and I get criticized by my JNU friends many times. You know, we used to be criticized. So I think this is the only country which has not seen a J-curve effect.
Yes.
I mean, someone needs to write a theoretical paper and publish it. And this is like, we were taught that if you depreciate, your exports go down, and the graph is like this, and it will then go up in the typical classroom. I mean, look, we have shown to the world it doesn't happen. It can be done in a very different way. So why aren't we saying loudly about it? And
that's a very, very good point. I would
Nobel
hope
Prize
you should write that paper.
You should write.
I've been thinking to write about it, but I need a little bit more.
So Pritam and you can together write.
We will write maybe something.
We should. Bhanuji, you are sorry.
Last point I want to add, and even I want to respond Dr. Banerjee. The thing is, we are doing good in services, even we can do better, right? The point is, there are some views which are telling that we have to focus on high skill services, right? Rather focusing on production link incentive or manufacturing. So my point is here, we are not mimicking anyone. We are choosing what is required
Absolutely.
for our country.
Absolutely.
Because as I told, manufacturing is the only, like enterprise where what we can do, we can absorb people from different skill sets, right? So that is the need of that is why we have chosen. We are not mimicking China, we are not mimicking South.
Fully agree.
We are doing it our own way. That is my assumption.
Absolutely, fully agree. So thank you. I think we are coming to.
We just have another
Yes.
very हमारे साथ
I
एक
just have one point.
Yes, please.
I just like to. I'm a retired Air Force officer and I'm a visiting faculty on export-import management on various institutions. We have to increase the number of exporters. We don't talk about it, but until unless we increase the number of exporters, how will the export grow? That is my view. So whenever I take classes in a college, it's a full 10-class course on export-import management. How to start the export business. So this awareness must be there among the youngsters or the entrepreneurs actually. So I think we should give importance to this particular factor. In many colleges, we should introduce export-import management as a course as such, so that at least many students are very inquisitive. And
So,
they just want-
Mukherjee sir, if I may come in quickly to respond to your point, under the Niryat Bandhu program in the government, and along with lot of export promotion costs at the state level, this kind of YouTube and using new technologies, capacity building for exporters is having at a massive scale. So it's not limited to classrooms anymore, and that is the beauty of it. And
I know. I've been to IIFT. I have taken classes in the Niryat Bandhu also. But see, it's very difficult to find out the exact the students or the exact right people to start the export business. We do a course, we impart this knowledge how to start. But it would be better if we find a particular kind of an audience that would be really interested to start the export business. Any colleges, youngsters, yes. As you were saying that like this one district, one product you said. So that's a wonderful thing actually. So we should go and in every district we should give at least one class or one awareness program. That would be nice.
absolutely, no, absolutely, Mr. Mukherjee. Business
हाँ,
owner,
we have हमारे साथ एक we have somebody who has his own jewelry business, Deepak ji, नमस्ते. तो if you want to add something, whether it's in Hindi or English, जो भी आप comfortable है, आपका कुछ राय, क्योंकि आप उनके खुद के ज्वेलरी बिजनेस है और काफ़ी बड़ा है, तो because you are here to, we are very happy that you are here today. We would like to have your viewpoints. आप अपना कुछ राय अगर शेयर करना चाहते हैं हम लोगों के साथ, नॉर्मली आपको जो लगे इस चीज़ के ऊपर जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं या गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज के ऊपर.
नमस्कार. मतलब ज्वेलरी जो बिजनेस मैन्युफैक्चर है अभी, जो सारे हैंडमेड जो होता था, जो अभी भी हो रहा है, तो पहले जो ज़्यादा लेबर रखते थे, तो आजकल जो नया टेक्नोलॉजी आया, नया मशीन से आया, तो उसमें से लेबर तो दिन दिन घट ही रहा है ना पीछे से. और जो लेबर था वो शिक्षित नहीं थे, रूरल से आते थे सारे लोग, तो लेबर भी वहाँ से पीछे सप्लाई भी कम हो गया. तो इसलिए जो हमारा ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री है, मेन जो हैंड वर्क जो होता है, मशीन मेड तो अलग होता है, हैंड वर्क होता है, तो हैंड वर्क में बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है. तो इन फ्यूचर में अगर गवर्नमेंट ने अच्छा टेक्नोलॉजी की मशीन जो प्रोवाइड कर सके इंडस्ट्री को, तो इंडस्ट्री का फायदा होगा.
तो स्किल डेवलपमेंट, जो ज्वेलरी एक बहुत बड़ा सेक्टर है जिसमें काफ़ी एक्सपोर्ट होता है, खास करके डायमंड के लिए. मुझे गोल्ड के बारे में उतना पता नहीं है.
गोल्ड इंक्रीज करता है, वैल्यू एडिशन.
हाँ, तो इसमें आपका क्या राय है? अगर इसमें एक्सपोर्ट्स बढ़ाना है तो आपके राय क्या है कि क्या क्या और चीज़ करना चाहिए?
गवर्नमेंट को उसको सपोर्ट देना पड़ेगा पूरा एक्सपोर्ट के लिए, जो फिनेंशियल सबसे ज़्यादा.
स्किल डेवलपमेंट भी, आई थिंक आपने ज्वेलरी का जिक्र किया, एंड आई थिंक आई लाइक टू क्लोज विद दैट. इट्स अ वेरी पर्सनल थिंग, एंड आई लाइक टू फोकस ऑन दिस वर्ड स्वाभिमान एंड एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, बिकॉज एक्सपोर्ट्स, जैसे यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दिस सर मोस्ट, कि एक्सपोर्ट्स डिपेंड करता है एंटरप्रेन्योर के ऊपर, जो ये पूरा एंटरप्राइज को पुट टुगेदर करता है, प्रोडक्ट क्वालिटी बनाता है, मेहनत करके उसको बाहर भेजता है. What this government has done is the स्वाभिमान of the entrepreneur has increased a lot. मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि जब my mother was an entrepreneur in jewelry, उनका एक छोटा सा पर्ल ज्वेलरी बिजनेस था कलकत्ते में, एंड वो बहुत मेहनत करके उसको सेटअप की थी. शी वॉज अ सिंगल एंटरप्रेन्योर, आप समझ सकते हो. एंड दैट इज टू ऑल्सो मिस्टर मुखर्जीज पॉइंट कि एंटरप्रेन्योर में अगर वो जोश हो ना कि मैं करना चाहता हूँ या चाहती हूँ, तो सीखना वो अपने आप वो फिगर आउट कर लेता है. प्रॉब्लम ये था, एंड आई वाज अ 14-15 year old ट्राइंग टू हेल्प माय मदर एट दैट टाइम, कि हर जगह पे धक्के खाने पड़ते थे. जैसे दिनकर जी बता रहे थे, टैक्स का रजिस्ट्रेशन से शुरू करके कस्टम्स का प्रोसेस तक, एक एंटरप्रेन्योर को कभी स्वाभिमान नहीं मिलता था हमारे देश. और जहां पे एंटरप्रेन्योर को स्वाभिमान नहीं मिलेगा, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स उतने जागरूक नहीं होंगे, कभी दे विल नॉट कम अप इन लार्ज नंबर्स, बिकॉज इट इज द एंटरप्रेन्योर हु ड्राइव्स. आज जो फोर्ड या टेस्ला जो भी बना है, कभी वो कुछ नहीं था, वो जीरो था, कहीं जीरो से शुरू करके यहां तक पहुंचा है जर्नी करके. द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, एज दिनकर वाज आल्सो सेइंग, इज दिस इकोसिस्टम चेंज, जहां पे एंटरप्रेन्योर को नीचा नहीं देखा जाता है, जहां पे सरकार के पास ये सारे फैसिलिटेशन आपको प्रोवाइड किया जा रहा है. अभी भी बहुत कुछ करना बाकी है, थिंग्स आर नॉट परफेक्ट, बट थिंग्स हैव चेंज्ड ट्रिमेंडसली. और एज दिनकर वाज सेइंग, इट विल चेंज इवन मोर, वी कैन होप फ्रॉम दिस लीडरशिप. with that swabhiman, with that confidence that the Indian entrepreneur will have, that will be the most important driving force in exports. Because as my good friend Anandajit was saying, हमारे छोटे शहर ये सब these are not important things. हमारे देश में जो पॉपुलेशन है, स्पेशली जो यूथ है, उसमें इतना क्रिएटिविटी है, इतना जोश है कि वो कोई भी माउंटेन क्लाइंब कर सकता है. उसको बस इनेबल करना है. एंड आई थिंक मिस्टर प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी खुद, आप याद रखें, छोटा एंटरप्रेन्योर थे. वो चाय के बिजनेस करते थे एक स्टेशन में, एंड ही अंडरस्टैंड दिस इंट्रिंसिकली. तो उसीलिए अंडर हिज लीडरशिप ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की जो पूरी रिवोल्यूशन हो रही है. And as Pothikrit was saying, I will not comment if West is afraid or not, but this will be such an explosion.
I think
it will change the defined targets we have. As Dinkar was saying, ये हम लोग ना जैसे करते थे कि हाँ 7% बहुत ज्यादा है, डबलिंग इन 10 years हो सकता है कि नहीं, ये भी कॉन्फिडेंस का अभाव था. वो चेंज हो गया है. We have the confidence in doing all of this.
just wanted to add one thing, Pridanda. What I meant is that everybody prefers status quo in the world. So what India has done in the last 9 years,
Absolutely.
it has tried to break the status quo and has tried to defy. ये थोड़ा some established powers may be a little uncomfortable. That's only.
And of course, if they are seeing 10,000 Indian youngsters starting with zero and developing a company, this is competing with their products and markets, established business, they should be scared, no?
मैं एक चीज कहना चाहता हूँ लास्ट में, before I ask Pritam da to wind it up. शायद हम लोग जब कॉलेज में थे, मी प्रीतम दा, that time क्या होता था, if you want to be an entrepreneur, अपना खुद बिजनेस शुरू करना चाहते हो तो पड़ोस में सब बोलते हैं अच्छा नौकरी नहीं मिली होगी. तब जाके
स्पेशली हमारे राज्य में, सारे राज्य में ये सच नहीं था.
राइटर, स्पोर्ट्स स्टार और एंटरप्रेन्योर.
नहीं, but I'll just correct.
अभी शायद lot of things have changed. अभी मुद्रा योजना में 8 crore entrepreneurs have been created by Modi government.
Yes.
क्योंकि objective has to be रोजगार and not नौकरी. You need to create job providers. You need to create job providers rather than job seekers. तो ये एक मुझे लगता है कि today जिस तरह से iconic entrepreneurs are honored and respected in this country, शायद 30 साल पहले वो था नहीं. शायद 20 साल पहले तो मतलब परसेप्शन ये था कि
नहीं, मेरा अपना दिन, सॉरी टू कट यू, मैंने अपने देखा हुआ है, एंड दिनकर will also supplement. I have seen leading entrepreneurs of this country, I will not take their names, stand outside a middle level officer's office with a file for hours waiting to meet him so that he can do his business. ये हाल था, which is now changed.
70s 80s की बॉलीवुड मूवी देख लीजिए, बिजनेसमैन का मतलब ही है स्मगलर. ये एक परसेप्शन क्रिएट किया गया था. वो जो प्रीतम दा कह रहा था, मिसप्लेस्ड सोशलिज्म. इफ यू वांट एक कहावत है दैट इफ यू वांट टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट वेल्थ, वो सोशलिस्ट तो वही कहते हैं ना, सो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ वेल्थ. इफ यू वांट टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट वेल्थ, देन फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू क्रिएट वेल्थ.
There is a Mamta model.
उसमें I will
no, I won't go into that.
So anyways, Pritam da, I will
no, but I think all that remains for me is to express my sincere gratitude to Pothikrit for putting this together, to Dinkar for sparing his valuable time. He's a busy person as a professional, and to Professor Singh for his time. Thank you so much for joining us. To Anandji, to all, to sir, आपको भी, and all the
अच्छा, any
friends over
questions
here.
you have for Pritam and Dinkar ji?
Absolutely.
Anybody? कोई question है? जी.
Under the Foreign Trade Policy 2023, which aimed at reaching or achieving the goal of $900 billion export, there was a term for promoting Indian rupee as a global currency. So, do you think that by 2030 we will be in that position, or will be around that position, because China tried that by promoting renminbi, but it didn't prove much fruitful. So what are the prospects regarding the Indian rupee?
See, first thing we have to understand is why would somebody want a rupee? They would only want a rupee if they can spend that rupee productively and in a short period of time. तो अगर आपका economy is producing competitively the goods and services other countries need, they will have no problem being paid in rupees. आपके जो नेबरिंग कंट्रीज है, नेपाल हो गया, भूटान हो गया, आप बिना फॉरेन एक्सचेंज लिए आप उस देश में जाके रुपी कोई भी ले लेगा. आप नेपाल में टैक्सी चल लो, भूटान में टैक्सी चल लो, आप बांग्लादेश में भी कुछ हद तक है ये, क्योंकि उस देश के नागरिक भी उनको पता है कि वो रुपये यूज कर सकता है, कुछ खरीद सकता है उससे. So as our economy size grows, as our economics ability to produce goods and services which is demanded by the world grows, तो रुपी का एक्सेप्टेंस अपने आप बढ़ेगा. टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट वो होगा बाय 2030, my personal feeling is not based on any formal study, is the way trade is going. हमारे neighborhood, and I mean extended neighborhood including some Southeast Asian countries, रुपी will become increasingly acceptable. और जो पोथिकृत कह रहा था, यूपीआई जैसे मैकेनिज्म से इनफॉर्मली, मतलब सिटीजन टू सिटीजन वो ट्रांजैक्शन होने लगेंगे विद जीरो ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट. वो तो आई थिंक विद इन द नेक्स्ट 5-6 years वेरी मच इज फीजिबल. दैट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. क्योंकि हमारा नेबरहुड में मैं देख लूं, मैं ही 1.4 बिलियन हूँ, उससे 600-700 मिलियन और लोग जोड़ दूं तो मैं दुनिया के 1/3 हूँ. उसके बाद धीरे धीरे बढ़ना है. दैट्स द फाउंडेशन. एंड देन मे बी बाई 2035, 2037 even much more of the world will accept.
So there's some supplement question. So the currency that has been made by the Russia, China, and India, along with the Chinese companionship, is it in favor of the India in the future terms, or is it some like contradictory with the terms of the future?
So BRICS currency.
Yeah, BRICS currency.
It has still not started.
It will not start.
There are challenges, complexities there, but I think we have to see how it evolves.
I will answer the question and Pratik's comment with something that Dinkarji said. He mentioned the example of that notification. Notification issue हुआ, फिर ले लिया गया. वो मैसेजिंग इतना स्ट्रांग था कि लोग कुछ करने लगे. I will leave it at that. कुछ चीजें जियोपॉलिटिकल होता है. दुनिया को बोलना होता है कि भैया आप समझ जाओ, हमारे पास और भी ऑप्शंस.
एक मैं चीज अंत में कहना चाहता हूँ विद योर परमिशन प्रीतम दा, ये ब्रिक्स करेंसी के बारे में देयर इज लॉट ऑफ एंथुसियाज्म इन अफ्रीका एंड मेनी अदर कंट्रीज. इसका कारण क्या है? वेरेवर आप देखोगे कहीं पे भी कोई लड़ाई होता है, कुछ होता है, ये डॉलर सैंक्शंस लगा देते हैं यूएस. मतलब यू कैन नॉट टेक अप अवे योर फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व अगर आप उसको डॉलर में रिजर्व करके रखे होते, एंड यू कैन नॉट ट्रेड इन डॉलर. तो इस तरह से छोटे जो इकोनॉमीज है उनके ऊपर बहुत इंपैक्ट पड़ता है. बड़े प्लेयर को आप मार्केट से बाहर कर देते हो, फिर प्राइस ऑफ कमोडिटी गोज अप, देन पीपल आर स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट ऑल्टरनेट करेंसी. ये इंडिया के साथ भी रशिया का जो तेल का हुआ था, दैट वाज मोस्टली इन रूपी रूबल एक्सचेंज. उसके कुछ चैलेंजेस है, बट इट इज अ वार्निंग दैट यू कैन नॉट कीप ऑन डूइंग इट. और उसमें आईएमएफ, चाहे आईएमएफ हो, वर्ल्ड बैंक हो, ये जो यूनिलैटरल सैंक्शंस पश्चिम के देश जो है वो लगाते हैं, इसके ऊपर आईएमएफ ने कभी कुछ किया नहीं है, यूनाइटेड नेशन ने कभी कुछ किया नहीं है. तो डॉलर में हैव इट्स ओन एडवांटेजेस, बट इट्स अ फिएट करेंसी. वो प्रीतम दा सम अदर डे विल एक्सप्लेन इट. लेकिन आई थिंक वी कैन नॉट बी अ प्रिजनर ऑफ दैट करेंसी फॉर एवर. अगर वो इंटरनेशनल करेंसी की तरह बर्ताव ना करे. एक देश है जिसका वर्चस्व है डॉलर के ऊपर, जब मर्जी वो सैंक्शन लगा के आपको मार्केट से आउट कर देगा. That is not acceptable. So I think ये जो ब्रिक्स वाला करेंसी के बारे में जो बात उठी, I think it's a warning to them. But eventually I think we may have, it's not कि डॉलर खत्म हो जाएगा, but multiple currencies will be there.
एक ना वो अम्बेडकर जी का एक किताब है, पावर ऑफ मनी. जितनी भी बात प्रतिक्रिया प्रीतम अम्बेडकर जी ने बताया, करेंसी क्या होगा इज अ स्ट्रेटेजिक गेम. फाइनली करेंसी का लिटरल अर्थ क्या है? It gives you a power to exchange. The point that Pritam is saying कि कितना इजीली आप अपने सामाजिक काम कार्य कर सकते हैं. तो ये थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन है आपने जो बोला कि फाइनली क्या होगा.
But just
I think, sorry to interrupt everybody. I think these are two different topics. You know, when you are talking about currency as a weapon, it's a geopolitical thing. It is entirely different to our discussion what we were doing.
yeah.
That's a weaponization of
Yeah,
currency.
weaponization of currency or weaponization of other activities. So once you make anything a weapon in geopolitical, then everyone will start thinking about how to defend that. You know, so you will be in a silo. This is a game. This is entirely different from what we were discussing.
Yeah.
So I will not go into that because that is, I think if you want, then it can be a different
It's a separate
discussion on
Topic
this.
on.
But yeah, again restricting, coming back to what we were discussing about how the policies of this government is making means it will be they are making sure that we reach that $2 trillion economy by 2030. Again, just concluding from my side, Pritamji, that what we are seeing at present are basics. What we are not seeing will come.
Yes.
And
Yes, no, as
yeah.
is in the building blocks leading
Building
to
blocks,
that.
yes. So means obviously one of our professor who was talking about that exporter, we are not able to create exporter. A very genuine question. That is the basic question which he asked. Ki where are the exporters? How you will get the export done? I think now it's not that we are in a decade before that we are not having that technological support. Today marketplace is making everyone an exporter whosoever wants to, without going into all these details, how I will make export, from where I will get the buyers and all. So this marketplace, ONDC, government is not sitting on aisle saying that okay, you all play on the marketplace. No, ONDC is there. So there will be a new technology. There will always be something which is going to change this whole world. Don't worry on that. There are many things which are going to come. Many things which will drastically change the whole country thought. We are into R&D. We are in now. We were just discussing about drone. If you see the life cycle of drone in India, it started with import. Then the government came up with the policy, drone policy, and suddenly more than 100 startups are there in India on drone.
Absolutely.
And now we don't need to import drone. Now a drone will be everywhere. Means we have that technology, we have that expertise, we have those startups. So I'm telling you, there will be something different, something new. If you want to be in this era, if you want to compete, think innovative, run little faster than Modi ji. Hope so. We can.
I think that's the clinching and last word. That I think that is what Modi ji expects us. I think Modi ji is creating the ecosystem for us, and that's the last thing. Again, I want to reiterate that drone or the space technology or everything that we're talking about, it is a bunch of individuals, many of whom are half my age, right? And they are doing this. This is the power that has been unleashed. And all of them are trying to run faster than the expectations of all of us we have had historically. So the ecosystem is completely changing. And just to respond to the geopolitical thing for 5 seconds, think of any country today which is wooed by everyone. Russia wants to be, is working with us. The US is working with us. Saudi Arabia is working with us. Israel is working with us. Everybody is working with us. It goes to the point Dinkar was making, that what Prime Minister Modi has done is that we are no more in a silo. We don't put labels on ourselves. We work practically with everybody where we can do business and get ahead. So he is creating the ecosystem for us to develop. So I think with those words we can end today's, and again thanks to everyone for their time. Thank you very much.
So, Pritamda, I would request you to felicitate Dinkar ji. इसका photograph.
Thank you.
And Manujam, आप उधर आओ. नहीं, this is for Pritam. Thank you. We have some arrangement for tea and other things. Please carry on.
कितने आंसर किए second